Welcome to the Pedal Collaborative podcast. We're so glad you're here.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another week of the Pedal Collaborative podcast. I'm your host, Paul, and I'm here with Alan.
Hi, how's it going?
It is going, man. How are you?
I'm extremely self-conscious right now because you just told me to stop making mouth noises, but that's all I want to do because you brought it up to my attention.
Again, stop doing it. So we're live now. We can't make this is not that's for Pedal Collaborative after hours when you make noises.
Okay. After dark.
Yeah, after dark, whatever we're calling it. Something of that nature.
Yeah.
But I feel as if before we get into anything, we do have to release a retraction of our lack of information.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
to be fair, I think I said on the episode, like, I don't understand tariffs. I do understand in theory tariffs.
Yeah.
But in practice, they seem to make no sense.
Right.
And then we learned that tariffs don't apply under a certain dollar amount.
Well, here's what happened. We talked about, Dr. Scientist had released a limited batch of their Tremolescence pedal. And I had reached out to Ryan there and been like, dang, I want that. And so we were kind of chatting back and forth about it. And he had
Wait, did you buy it, by the way?
Well, not yet. Not yet. Here's how it went down. And I'm gonna read the thread, okay? So you know.
And for our listeners as well who might not understand how this works.
So this is how it works.
New and changing all the time.
So he posted a story about it. I responded with a drooly face emoji because, that's what I was feeling inside. And he's like, "Hey, Alan, nice to hear from you, sir." Sorry, Ryan, I'm actually reading our thread out loud. I hope you don't mind. Thanks for checking out that post. I did sell those 5 Trem bundles, but was going to do another round for some pals that missed out. Happy to add you in there too if you'd like. The bundles cost X plus shipping. We'll get them ready next week. Thanks again. And so then I said, let me check my wallet. I really, really want. And then assuming the new dumb tariff is part of the shipping. So at that point, I'm wondering, like, okay, the price he gave plus shipping, and I'm not telling the price that he gave that he told me because I don't know if he's giving us like a couple bucks back for it or if it's standard price.
Don't do that.
I don't know. I
actually have no idea what any of his stuff costs. So.
Right. Well, yeah, because it just shows up at your house when I buy it. So actually, I don't think he I don't know. Doesn't matter. I just don't know what his deal is with this if it was public pricing. So I'm not sharing that. Anyway. At that point, I'm saying to myself, like, okay, well, the price he gave me is not bad. Definitely worth it to me. And if shipping is just like the standard $20, that's fine. But if he's also wisely not including any of the, customs type stuff into that price, and, that's something he can't control. But I want to know that because I don't want to add 25% to the price. So,
yes.
I had said, assuming the new dumb tariff is part of the shipping, and he's like, well, thanks again for checking it out. The shipping is Canada Post with tracking, flat rate, $20. And then here's the part that matters here. You won't have to worry about the tariffs on this. Americans can receive a package from Canada valued up to $800 without paying the tariff. It's called the de minimis exemption. So no worries about the extra fees, no worries there about extra fees. Thumbs up. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah, count me in. So, that's where we stand on that. So apparently
it doesn't matter as long as you buy, I guess in this case, you can't buy like too many pedals because then it will go over.
Right. Which is kind of where we were at with the,
Demo
we talked about the Demo Dash.
We would have gone over. Yeah, we would have gone over.
Bundle of things that would have gone over that. So, yeah. So yeah, if you're just buying a one-off from any of our good Canadian friends, those Canucks up there, if it's under $800, it looks like that is exempted from these tariffs. So use that wisely. You don't want it to be over that. Don't bundle it with like a whole bunch of Canadian steel that you might want to ship over. I would not do that.
Do try to bundle it with a whole bunch of Canadian energy because then you might be helping us all out. But
right.
Don't do that, actually. I think.
Right. So, I mean, just buy like $750 US of Canadian pedals at a time.
Yes. That's the solution. You're correct.
Yes. So there. It's a retraction, but it's also, we're learning, right? We are learning as this process goes. I think we're all trying to figure out these damn tariffs.
I liked learning. It was nice to know. I mean, I was excited to find out we were wrong. So that's one thing about me. I'm totally okay being wrong, especially when it's in this type of thing where it's like, oh yeah, no, pedals are cheaper actually.
Right. Well,
Well, not cheaper, but they're
cheaper,
not
just not.
expensive. Not more expensive. There we go.
But do you see what that? Okay, so do you see what we just did here? You're now adding the value of the tariffs to the item, and so saying that like an item sub tariff is cheaper, which it does. You are paying less than you are, but it's actually not less than you would have a month ago.
And therein lies. I'm not even sure what that means. I had no thought to finish that, but yeah, you're
That's
right.
fine.
I did some. What I think what they call that is economics.
There's no way to know what that is.
Yeah.
Can't. It's
So
not calculable.
yes. Oh my gosh, nice. Well, thank you for helping with the retraction that I was trying to spit out.
You're quite
Because
welcome.
it
You're
was. I
quite
feel
welcome.
like this was actually the same day after we recorded, and I was like, "Oh man, should we delete the
It
episode?"
was.
And I was like, "You
It
know what?
was the
Whatever.
day
Just
after. It was the
we'll
day
do a
after for
retraction
sure.
next week. No
Yeah.
one, no one's gonna be mad at us for being like, actually, it turns out pedals aren't gonna be more expensive from
Right.
Canada. Just
Everyone's like, Alan, you always say to fact check us. We did, and you're wrong.
yeah. Except nobody did any fact checking. We did our own. So
That's right. That's right.
because we're a man of honor who we want to keep ourselves accountable to being correct about stuff.
That's correct. That's correct. And
That's
if
what we're
it
trying to do.
involves us having to buy a pedal from Dr. Scientist to prove what's going on, it's a sacrifice we're willing to make.
100%. So, with that, we've
Yeah.
printed our retraction. I wanted to get into something today that you and I have talked about, and we talked about it personally for my own interests of how you do this. This is more of like a me interviewing you episode,
Okay.
and less of us talking about stuff. So if you don't like listening to Alan talk more, turn this off now. If you do like listening to Alan talk more, you're in for a treat. But
I'm so excited. I love listening to Alan talk.
yes, for those who follow us in every way, that is Patreon, YouTube, Instagram, etc. You will know that a big part of kind of what we do and how we collaborate with people, to use our namesake,
look at that.
is we create presets for specifically right now just the Meris X series pedals, which is the LVX, Mercury X, and soon to be our first Enzo X preset pack. I think we talked about that a couple weeks ago. And you had all of those pedals before me. Thus, you started making presets before me. I've thrown a few into the batches here and there, as I have. But it's one of those things where I have always been very curious, like, how do you go about doing that? So I want to frame this question. I think let's just, because there's 3 pedals and they're all very different.
Right.
Let's just focus on the one we've had the most time with, which is the LVX.
Okay.
And so when we typically are making presets, we have some presets. I'm going to a little more. We have some presets that are just cool sounds we found in the pedals. And then a thing that we spend a lot of time doing, because we also love doing it, is going ahead and taking a classic pedal or a brand new pedal and seeing if the LVX can replicate it, or the Mercury X or Enzo X in the future. But so what I wanted to ask you, Alan, to go into your mind palace a bit and kind of go through your process of what do you do to build a preset? Like what's your process? Where does it start? Is there a specific module you start on usually? Just walk us through an LVX patch of making a delay that you're making a delay that's emulating something specifically here.
Okay, I can do that. I probably should have planned ahead and had an LVX, and this, like having it in front of me and looking at it, and scrolling around. But that's okay. I can do this by memory. Actually, you know what? I can pop it up on.
Yeah, pull up Predator.
Tab. Dang it! Now people have to like watch me do things or listen to me.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'll just talk. I mean, okay. I do apologize. I did just come up with this idea like minutes before we were recording because I had another idea and I threw that one out.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. It's fine. I love it.
Well, and to be fair, this was something we talked about as like we wanted to do an episode on this because for those who want to support us and become patrons and download the presets as we build them, that's awesome. But also I want to do a little content for folks who might want to try building their own or digging into doing something. We've even had listeners send us presets that have become part of packs because they're like, hey, I took this and I saw what you were doing and I made this, and we've then hooked up, made little deals back and forth.
Right.
So
So,
do
okay,
you got Predator up now?
no, not Predator, but I have the manual up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes
So
sense. Okay,
I
go ahead.
just got a new computer, so I haven't transferred everything. Anyway, okay, so you want to know how I make a preset, and I think like the first thing I kind of start with is what is the end goal? If I'm making making an original preset or an emulation, I kind of approach it differently. So let's approach it as an emulation. So
Okay.
let's take here's a great example. When I was making the DM 101 pack that is available to our annual, it's like a gift to our annual subscribers. Um, that's a great example because I would start with whatever the original patches that I wanted to try and emulate. Uh, the DM 101, it's an analog delay pedal. So right there, I went to the standard, uh, the BBD as the way to start. So with the delay type, it's digital, it's BBD, or it's magnetic. In this particular one, because I'm going analog, it's not a tape delay. Uh, I start with BBD. That's pretty easy. From there, I go to the delay structure, and I kind of think to myself, what is the structure that I'm trying to emulate, and what do I want to go with? I usually start with standard. Um, in most instances, I don't do the multi-tap, multi-filter, the poly sometimes. So I'm and rarely the reverse. Again, it's unless I'm trying to make something very specific. So the standard and the series are the two that I start with the most, and I try and get there as close as possible with those. There are times when I really want some of the interplay between the two, some various delay taps, and so I'll go to the poly, which is a dual version of the poly moon structure, or the multi tap, which is uh, you know 8 tap delays spread across 2 sides. So it's like it's 4 on each side. But again,
Which I believe is
those
also from the Polymoon with the multi-tap structure,
I
just
think
with
so, yeah.
just with more control.
Yeah, but I those are pretty specific. The multi-filter, I don't really use that often, honestly, unless I'm trying to get something really weird and wacky. It's a great one, but it's not my go-to. So, once I have the delay type set and the structure set, that's when really start to fine tune and tweak the tone and overall sound of that particular delay. Kind of what I do next is I kind of work on the dynamics. So if I need to have a compressor in there to kind of boost what I'm doing, I'll throw the compressor in there, or a swell if I'm wanting to swell it in. If if I'm really wanting to get some more reverb esque sounds, I use the diffusion module there in the dynamic, or the setting in the dynamics category. And really, I just go module to module. So after dynamics, I go to preamp and start figuring out if I want to throw any of that in. I usually like adding the two preamp to the pre plus dry and having the whole entire thing kind of warmed up like that. Um, and then basically like if I'll use the transistor or the op amp really to kind of adjust some of the tonal qualities of the delay structure to match whatever I'm going after. And it's a matter of finding exactly what that signal is, how much gain. Um, Oftentimes I'm adding gain but lowering level so as not to overdrive things. I like to send into oscillation, and figuring out where in the signal path I want to put it, whether it's like dry, like pre plus dry, or just pre. Gotta be very careful in the feedback loop, putting preamps because it will run away really quickly.
Yes.
Um, a good tip though is if you want to get like almost running away but don't want to run away, go back to the dynamics category and throw a limiter in the feedback loop. That will keep it from going too far out of control. But
Little tip there. Little tip
little
there while
tip,
we're going.
little tip. And then usually I skip the filter category to last, and I'll explain why in a second. I'll then jump to the pitch, and if it's a setting that I want to throw pitches in there, if it's octaves up or fifths up or whatever the case is, I'll do some of that. I tend to stay away from the harmony setting because that's set to specific keys, and I don't always play in the same keys. So I don't kind of shift away from that one, but put some pitch in there as I want. Again, finding where in the the signal chain I want to put it to get the most. And then the last thing is I'll add some modulation. So like for the DM101, I threw in some chorus in there just to kind of give it that warm movement that you get out of analog, analog vibes and BBDs. And so I'll figure out what modulation I want in there and go for there. And then we have the basic structure of it. And then I've asked myself, and this is where you and I differ completely in how we play, is the filter category. I'll throw a filter in there to get the tone the way that I personally want it. And then I'll send it to you when it's all done. And you typically change the filter because it doesn't work with your like the way that you like to play and the gear that
Yeah,
you have.
whether it be dynamics or guitars or amps.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a good place. The filter is a great way to do some final tweaking on the tone of whatever the preset you're making. So if you want it to be darker, then adjust the filter to be darker. If you want it to be brighter, do that. And it's a great final like EQ thing to do. And again, placing it in different places within the signal chain can give you some unique and different categories, of sonic categories. So that's kind of where I go to get the basis of it, right? Now, there's been plenty of times where I've been mid-process and really liked what I've come across. And again, I chose the DM101 as the sample for this because this is what happened. I was making one of the presets, and then I ran into a sound I really, really liked, but it wasn't the sound that I was trying to emulate.
Yep.
So I'm like, well, I like this. I'm going to save this as its own thing, and then continue tweaking till I find what I want. So, to me, that kind of it opens up, especially with some of these probably more controlled delays out there and reverbs as we like think about the Mercury X, the ones that have parameters that you can't quite tweak. It's kind of like if you find like with this particular example with the DM101, I was able to create a sound that I couldn't make on the DM101, right?
Yep.
But it had the flavor of the DM. So it's actually included. I forget which one it's called. Maybe it's called Warm Chirps or something like that. It's in
Is
the
that how that came to be? The one that has the cool hold
yeah,
modifier too?
yeah. So, or maybe it's dark grains. I forget again, I've made so many. It's really yeah, and sometimes like when I'm scrolling through like maybe the modulations, I get to a place like granulize that's like this is not at all something that's in an analog delay, but I really like what it's doing here. So, that's the birthplace of a new original preset oftentimes.
Yep.
So that's usually what I do and kind of for some of the simpler delays slash reverbs, that's the process in which I go to create one. I typically don't touch the modifiers until the very, very end, and oftentimes don't touch them at all, minus the hold modifier. I know you and I are trying to put hold modifiers in every single thing that we're doing just to give
Yeah.
another thing.
Yeah. I've become, especially the more time I spend with the Mercury X, quite fond of the hold modifier as
Yeah.
a way to uh not just make cool sounds that you can't make in a typical pedal, because not all pedals have. I mean, there are definitely pedals where you have like a secondary foot switch that's like a favorite foot switch on Strymon.
Mhm.
But especially with reverbs, when you have on the Mercury X2, where I'm very fond of the cathedra setting with pitch up, pitch down on the
Right.
trails. That's like one of my favorite settings for anything. And just having the hold modifier switch the pitch from pitch up to pitch down, or invert it, so you have like a completely different reverb just right there at your tap.
Yeah.
Very fun.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of it where I start. And a couple of tips, I think, for people as they're creating something. I kind of alluded to it with the dynamics. Like when you're adding in a drive, you have both gain and level. So you can adjust, you need to adjust both. You need to adjust the gain and the level. And sometimes they're inversely adjusted to keep the overall level where you want it. But,
Yes.
if you want more grit, you have to increase the gain, but that inherently increases the level. So if you don't want to increase the level, you actually have to decrease the level as you increase the gain.
Yes, this is something I still fight with when I get into over tweaking mode with the
Yeah.
LVX. I know we've talked about it, where one of the first things I'll be candid on the podcast. One of the first things I do when Alan sends me a preset is I just plug it in exactly as he made it, and then almost inevitably I go and change the filter to the opposite direction of the way he has it. Because for whatever reason, the way that you filter and what comes out of your guitar, your hands, your amp setup is like almost inversely how mine works. As far as like, I want a lot more like generally darker texture, and I feel like yours come out too bright on my setup, which is
Yeah,
interesting.
that is
Um,
interesting.
I've also been playing a bit more with just not having a filter at all on some of my presets and just letting the delay do what it wants to do without
Yeah.
filtering.
Well, and oftentimes, I don't know for you, but for me, I'm building these, I'm building these with just the LVX or Mercury X in mind. Um, I'm not, I don't have other, I don't often have other effects, maybe besides like a transparent overdrive just to give me some thickness ahead of the game, but I'm not adding extra effects into my process. Um, and so that way, like, the end result is someone gets one of these presets, they're not missing anything because, "Oh, I didn't have that," I don't know, "I didn't have that Walrus Juliana also
Yeah.
playing," you know what I mean?
Yep.
So, um, I try and keep them all kind of turnkey within themselves, and I think adjustment is required sometimes, but also welcomed. I think I make these so that people can just I like to do the hard work for them so that they can then tweak to finality for themselves in exactly what they
Yes.
want.
I think you also just nailed something with that thought, which was oftentimes when I am plugging in one of your presets, I am in a situation where I have like a signal chain and I just download the preset to my LVX and see how it
Mhm,
sounds.
mhm,
And for me, one of the first things I find is that often the filters don't the filter the way you said it doesn't always play well with whatever else I have going on, whether that be like the overdrive that I have going into it, or like sometimes like the chroma console effect behind it, like it's like either too muddy or it's like not quite cutting through the way the delay should, and you lose the delay and like a reverb I have behind it, which is something I'm always like keenly aware of. Like,
right.
why did I turn on delay when I already had a verb that was just immersive, and now it's
Mm,
like you don't hear anything. Um, but I think that that's yeah, you do a lot of the groundwork. I mean, frankly, I feel like very infrequently do I have like a major tweak to a preset you send me. It's like, hey, I think that this model is like maybe slightly off. Like, let's just try either this or that, or add decay or something like that. But the groundwork you put into it does make it easy to, as a jumping off point, to be creative without like I know, for example, one that I use frequently that you created, which was the tonal recall, the Chase Bliss
mm,
tonal recall, which was a pedal that I had for a long time and really liked. Sold it because I was like, I don't use it nearly enough, and oh no, I traded it for a synthesizer. That was for the Electron Digitac. That was the
okay.
trade. Um, and I then was like, oh man, I kind of missed that pedal. And you're like, oh, just use the LVX preset I made for it, mess with it. And that one, I made like one tweak to just the filter, and it sounds so good and
Mhm,
gives you that feeling of that kind of runaway analog delay sound
mm.
that pedal gives you.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Hey, did we ever release those tonal recall patches to the general public?
uh, as I'm saying this out loud,
Yeah.
you know what? Here's what we'll say. I'm gonna do a fun thing this week, just because it's
Okay.
March. It's St. Patrick's Day when we're recording this, and I'm Irish. So
You are and I'm wearing green.
if
Not
we
re sort of.
haven't, why don't we just add them as a link? You can download those two on the end of this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
why
yeah.
not?
Well, I think the what well, here, let's make it a little bit easier for me because it's a dude like that, it's just like everyone goes to Google Drive, but bleh. Um, I'll throw them up on Patreon as a free download.
Yeah, sure.
So, everybody who is signed up on Patreon, even, like, as a free person, because
Yeah,
you don't
go
have to
grab those
be
Toner Recall ones.
there's 2 Tonal Recall ones. I'm gonna throw them up.
Call it the Luck of the Irish preset
Luck
pack.
of the Irish preset pack. Alright,
That's there we go.
there we go.
We just on live time. I just had this idea. We're doing it.
Beautiful,
So
beautiful.
cool. Um, yeah. No,
So
that is a
I've
really
got
cool
work to do.
one. That's I'll do it if you don't want to.
No, I
Uh,
got it, it's fine.
but no, that is so. Well, I think that was helpful. I mean, I've asked you even sometimes because I'm still, I mean, I'm a year into the LVX and I'm
Mm.
only a few months into the Mercury X and I've barely touched the Enzo X. But I rely on you often for, I know how to build presets now, but I'm like, I want to get this. Where do I want to go?
Yeah.
Like, what module do I want to fit in? And I think the way you just sort of broke down how you interact with each one. And also, I think something that's important you mentioned in there is like, you kind of Bob Ross with your happy accidents along the way when you're trying to emulate
Mhm.
something and then you find something beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, I think that I have to remind myself, so I'll just say it for other guitar players like me, is like part of playing music. It's it's expression, it's creativity, but having fun is part of it. So if you're trying to
Yeah.
do something and you find something else that works, don't shy away from that. Lean into the thing that sounds cool
Right.
and play with it and noodle on it.
Well, and the nice thing about these pedals, like the X series, but I'll also say it's the same with the Strymon big boxes, the Timeline, the Big Sky. Uh, Same with like anything with menus and savability with presets is that you can get to a happy accident, save it, and keep going and find
Yes,
another happy accident.
that's often you said that. I kind of chuckled because that's like happens to me so much when
Yeah.
I'm trying to do one thing and I end up where I'm like, man, this is like a pretty cool sound we got
Yeah.
going here. I kind of want to just vibe on this. And I was like, oh yeah, let me just save it. And then I can copy and use this same thing for the basis of what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, which is something I
It's very
can't
fun.
do. Like, I made the Old Blood Noise BL13 video, and I found a couple settings that I really liked, but it's like, I have to go back and watch the video to figure out where those knob settings are.
Yeah, it's always the worst.
Yeah,
It's the worst with pedals that don't have presets because like I feel like because so many of my pedals, so I have two types of pedals on my board. I have
'kay.
pedals that have presets for specific songs, which are like the Timeline, the Mercury X now, like they do exactly what I want them to do. And then I have pedals like my Juliana chorus. It is virtually set
Mm,
exactly the same way all the time. I
mm.
very rarely change. I'll change like the tap tempo sometimes if I'm getting like a weird
Yeah,
interaction or out of phase thing that I don't like. But for the most part, that pedal is set and forget.
yeah,
It's just sitting there with the same knobs sitting the same way because I get the sound out of I want to get from it. Um, but if I ever wanted to save presets, it's kind of annoying that of the that's like the Walrus pedal that came out right before everything
mm,
had
yeah,
presets.
yeah, and they haven't made I guess, a version 3 yet.
Yeah. No,
Hopefully, guys, Walrus make a
Juliana
version
we said,
3.
I think we talked about this before, the Juliana since we have to use
The
the MIDI
Juliana?
convention.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Um, okay. So we talked about how building presets. I'm gonna wrap up with a question
got it.
that I saw on Reddit the other day
'Kay,
because I liked it and it's one that I think is worth. And I think we've in other episodes talked about this, but let's try to come up with one that's different,
got it.
maybe. Uh,
Was that, like, passive aggressively pointed towards me?
no. Like just like I don't I half the time I don't even know what we say here. So then I'm like, let's try to just think of something different than what we might normally say.
Got it.
But the question was, what's a popular pedal that you've tried and you absolutely hate? As the title states, which pedal do you regret buying the most?
Hmm,
The
okay.
user here says, for me, I'll give theirs. They say it was the Little Rat and the Tumnus Deluxe, which is funny because I
Hmm.
don't necessarily classify either of those as popular pedals, in my opinion. Um, I hate
Well,
knobs,
rat and clawn.
shitty ass bevels you can't see at night, but it sounds okay. Don't know why, but I just couldn't dial it the way I wanted to. Longsword completely throws it out of the water, though I think means blows it out of the water. Which also, if you're comparing the EAE Longsword to a like, I feel like you're not. It's not a fair fight. Not once that I want to try the Little Rat again. They're not even the same type of
What is
anyhow.
hold on, go back. What was shitty ass bevels? What was this?
Uh, about the Little Rat, I
Okay.
fucking hate the knobs. Shitty ass bevels you can't see at night, but it sounds okay. Don't know why, but I just couldn't dial it the way I wanted to. Longsword completely
Mm,
throws out of the water. Not once did I want to try the Little Rat again. And then Blues Breaker, greater than Clons in my opinion. Something out of Blues Breaker, just amazing. The mid bump is just not for me on the Tumnus Deluxe. So a lot of colorful thoughts here, and also confusing thoughts because like, is the longsword a rat? I don't think I knew that if it is, but I
I don't
also
know.
don't. Either way, I like wouldn't compare the two.
I'm checking it out. I'm
I
gonna look.
don't think it's a rat,
It's
but
cascaded gain stages.
I mean, it just doesn't sound like a rat to me. So
Well, I don't know. I mean, you've got yeah.
anyhow, question: what's a popular pedal that you've tried and you absolutely hate?
I'm
So
just still stuck on that commenter's
they hate the knobs like a lot.
shitty ass bevels.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, what is going on
Oh
here?
my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I would have to say a compressor that like the orange squeeze or like the Dynacomp.
Oh, you don't like
Um,
the Dynacom?
or like the Dan Armstrong orange squeeze
That's
type
just like a
compressors.
you just don't like that style of compressor?
I don't, and I remember knowing what I wanted to get out of a compressor, but not realizing it was specific to certain types of compressors. This was early on in my exploration way before TPC, and even not that I know what I'm doing now, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Um, like I had just thought if I get a compressor, I'll get X sound, and I didn't realize how much of my tone was not just pedals, right? Like how the sound I wanted was mainly a telly into a Vox AC30 with bluebacks, like how that was crucial to the sound that I wanted. But no, I just thought that if I would get that bell-like chime and
From a
sustain out of a
compressor. Yeah.
compressor. And you
That
can,
makes sense to me, though. I would think that too.
but so I plug this thing in and I'm like, "This is shit. I don't like this at all. This is gross."
Yeah. I feel like that exact thing you just said bleeds into something I want to talk about not this week but next week.
'Kay.
But like when your preconceived notion of what a pedal is going to do, and then you like
Mhm.
plug it in, you're like,
Mhm.
wait, this doesn't
Yep.
do at all what I thought it
Yeah.
would do. That I think
Yeah.
that's a big part of this actual question of what's a popular pedal you tried and hate is like
Yeah.
maybe you hear someone like their playing style exemplifies the pedal, or their exact guitar and amp combo is like just not the one you have.
Right.
There's so many factors.
Yeah.
For me, the answer to this, I thought about it, and there's a lot of pedals I haven't liked that other people like. I know most recently one that was like buzzy was I really didn't like the Chase Bliss Lossy as much as I thought I would.
Okay.
But my classical question to this one that's like a long
Yeah, because
time
I said
popular
Lossie's
pedal.
not a classic pedal.
Yeah, and it's also not like I don't think that it's like niche popular. It's like
Right.
Instagram popular. Um, the full tone OCD.
Oh,
I have
yeah.
tried so many versions of
Yeah.
that too, because
Yeah.
like the first one I got was like I want to say a version 1.4 probably was the one I tried and returned initially. But then like I was willing to be open minded and be like, oh well, there's different versions. They have different things going on with it. Like maybe I just didn't have a good one. So I've tried quite a few. I've tried clones of that pedal. I can never make it sound. It sounds spitty and fizzy no matter what I do
Yeah.
with it, no matter how I set it.
Yeah.
Um, and other people when they plug it in, it's like this like creamy, smooth, like
Yeah.
they make
Well,
it sound great. They sit it in their rig and it sounds awesome. And I plug it in, it just sounds like fizzy and spitty, and
yeah. Me
I
too.
can't make it work for me.
Okay, so when I finally let you borrow the Keeley Blues Disorder Germanium,
Yes.
did you try the OCD settings on that?
Which ones were they? I tried them all. I don't
Then
remember.
I think they were switched down.
Switch down. Uh, I think
I
I
mean,
didn't.
if you tried all
Yeah,
the
I tried them. Then that
permutations, then
means
yeah.
yeah, it means I tried them.
Yeah.
I don't remember disliking them, but also
Yeah.
maybe that's just the germanium circuit. Sounds
Well, I was gonna
glorious.
say the germanium, like, softens it up a bit. I have not tried the GE-OCD. They make a germanium OCD. Full Tone does.
Didn't I get offered that in a trade we debated getting it a few months
I
ago?
think so.
It was like a black germanium one. It looked really cool. But I had
Maybe they make a blackout. I know it's
I
blue,
don't know. I
but
just remember like being like mildly interested, but then the hesitation about the fact that I've just never been able to make them work.
right,
So I didn't do that trade, whatever that trade was.
right.
But um
So, there we go, the Orange Squeeze and the OCD.
yes, yeah, I think those are ones. I think those are good both answers. Good answers there.
Good both answers.
Good both answers. Yeah, you can tell that like I am coming off of like a weekend getaway where my brain is not in gear at all. So
That's
we'll
okay.
let that go.
That's okay.
Um,
I won't call it out.
cool. Well, thank you all for listening. To another episode of us talking about things. Alan, I do appreciate you on the spot doing a like interview style about how you
You're
build
welcome.
presets. You went through it very aptly, I think, for not having any preamble or preparation time.
Well, you're quite welcome, sir. And I would say if anybody has questions about any of these things, any specific presets, I mean, by all means, hit us up. You can comment here on the podcast. You can jump over to any of the socials, the Facebook, the Instagram, the YouTube. Yeah, I like saying the word the or the in front of them. Yeah, I know.
I
Shut up.
don't.
Shut up. Shut up. So you can actually throw comments in there. You can also email us at hello@thepedalcollaborative.com and ask us questions. But if you're really cool, you're a part of the core collaborators on Patreon because you have a special texting
Yeah,
number
you
that,
can text us and we'll
yeah,
answer.
we will answer.
You'll
We will
hear
answer. You
things from us.
yeah.
We'll make little videos for you if you have questions on that tier. That's the tier. That's the tier for the real ones. You know,
Right.
who wanna ask us a lot of questions and be our friends.
Yes.
Yes.
To pay to be our friends. I love it.
Yes, but also, pay to text us directly. That's different. We answer a lot of people in many ways, in many
We
forums,
do.
regardless, because we
We
like
do.
to talk about pedals.
Yeah.
It's just if you want to really go deep, text us
Yeah.
and join the core collaborators. That being said, I'm just going to mention again the thing I came up with live. Whenever this episode will come out Wednesday this week, so a little after St. Patrick's Day, but it's St. Patrick. We're Irish in our hearts every day. That's what I
We're
say.
Irish
As
in
a
our
person with the
hearts
last name McBride, I
every
can
day.
say that.
Lee, if you're listening, I don't know if that's offensive or not,
I'm
but we're
Irish. I
Irish
can
in
say whatever I want.
what? You're it's it's St. Patty's Day. We're all Irish.
Yeah. We're
Okay.
all Irish right now. That's what I'm saying.
Got it.
But go check out the Luck of the Irish giveaway. We're giving away 2 presets. We're giving away our 2 tonal recall ones. The one
So
I came up with.
it'll be in the comments here.
Yes.
I'm sorry, it'll be in the show notes here, but you can also just jump over to the pedal patreon.com/the pedal collaborative and it'll be in the shop. It will be free.
Yes. And then also thanks for coming. This is real collaboration when they
Actually,
get to
no,
come
sorry,
along
it
live
won't
time.
be in the shop, y'all. Sorry, it won't be in the shop. It will be in the show notes on Patreon for this episode. I can't put it in the shop for free.
Yeah.
But I can make it as a free download you basically just have to, I think, sign up with your email, but it'll be no cost. There's
And if you're listening to this and you can't
download.
find any of this, just like any of the places we just mentioned, DM or message us and we'll get it to you.
Yeah. If something goes wrong, technically it's Paul's fault, so you can just start yelling off at Paul.
Yeah, because I threw this. I was like, this is the real pedal collaborative is the friends you make along the way by making up ideas on live episodes.
I love it.
So, all right, we'll see you all next week. Have a blessed St. Patrick's Day. I guess it's in the past after this, and we will talk to you all next week. Bye.